Óli the Brewmaster. Thank you for joining me today.
No problem.
I'm excited about this for many, many reasons. The top one is that I get to drink alcohol, specifically Christmas beers. And then on top of that, we're doing specifically craft beers, which I think is nice. And really a growing part of Icelandic culture in terms of, beer. And for people who don't know, beer was illegal in Iceland until March 1st, 1989. And Óli and I did a podcast actually about the history of beer a while ago. I think it was more than a year ago. So I'll put a link to that, for people to check it out, to hear that podcast, because there's not a video part of it. But I thank you, Óli, for picking out the beers that we're going to try today. One of them, to be fair, I picked because I really wanted to include it on the list. But yeah, thanks for coming, and I'm excited. Are you excited about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually been doing a few, kind of live beer tasting with companies recently. Yeah, so I'm kind of getting used to this being absent from people.
Yeah. Okay. So you're interacting in a different way.
Yeah.
Awesome. And one thing I want to point out for people who are not aware as well, that Icelandic Christmas beers are only available. This year was a little early, but normally they're only available from like November 15th until January 6th or something like that. Like it's a short time. Yeah.
Usually they've started the sales of the Christmas beers 2 weeks earlier in the duty-free store and in the bars. But they decided this year, and I think it was more to help the breweries more than anything else, just to extend the sales period. So everything started on the 5th, the duty-free store, the bars, and the sales in the state alcohol stores. So we got those. We got that kind of grace period in a way of those extra 10 days, which was fine because actually I think everything that I sent in was sold out within the first 2 days.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
I sent in quite a lot actually in the beginning. And after the first day, I think at 3 o'clock, I got an email from them asking me if I had more to deliver like now, because they were basically selling out of everything.
Wow. Okay. That's, yeah. I mean, I look forward to this time of the year, and I know there are many other people that do as well. And Óli is the brewmaster of Ægir Brugghús, for those who would like to visit in the future. Like, you have done events and different things when people were allowed to be in person. Yeah. And so I recommend that. And also, really random fact, we got married in that event space that you guys have there. So behind you, you can kind of see like the background that Óli's in. That was a part of our me and Gunnar's wedding. So, and we had a great time. And we had like the barrels of beer and stuff like that as part of the party. It was great. So yeah, I think maybe we should get started with the Icelandic Christmas beers. I haven't had any Christmas beer yet. I've been holding out for this episode. Yeah, I know. I was just like, it's time for me to catch up.
It's been a month, so
I know. I've had a lot of willpower in this particular.
Yeah, moment. I call that brave. Yeah, I'm able to go through this period without tasting any of them.
Yeah. So what beer should we start with then?
So we're gonna go from light to dark. Basically, just so the palate doesn't get kind of overflowed with heavy flavors right in the beginning. Now, the Christmas beers to begin with in Iceland, they were all kind of very, very much a different version of the Tuborg Christmas beer. So these kind of amber Vienna style lagers with like added licorice and stuff like that. So they were very monotonous, like. During the first years of this being a tradition here. So they've slowly and gradually moved it up in such a way that us, the brewers, are getting bored of making the same types of beers and just calling them Christmas beers because they have this kind of specific look and feel.
Yeah.
So a lot of the Christmas beers now are straying away from that, which is definitely what the first beer is. This one is called Jóli Bæjó. This is from a small brewery, this would be classed as a nano brewery, basically anywhere else in the world except for in Iceland. They're actually a gypsy brewery, and they brew everything here.
Okay.
At my brewery. And all of their names, so they're situated in Garðabær, and all of their names have some kind of reference to daily life there. They have a reference to like a theme or style or a person or a place. And this one is a reference to a guy called Jóli, who's called Jóli Bæjó. He's like he works for the what would you call it?
The town?
He basically works for the town. He's a guy who he hangs up the Christmas lights. He basically does everything kind of for the town, everything that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So this is
He's like
this
the
is
maintenance
a reference
man of the town. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this beer is an homage to him, and
nice.
this is a session IPA.
Okay.
So 4.7%, if I remember. Yeah.
And I'll put all of the different details in the description box or show notes so people can check them out. Smells nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, is it appropriate for me to use these glasses?
Yeah, I'm not a glass snob, but
okay.
I think anywhere else in the world that would be classed as a glass for port wine. I think.
I know exactly. I was like, but these look cute, so that's why I just took them out.
Also,
so
meaning
that
meaning that when you get to beer number 5, you're not drunk already.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is, IPAs, for those who are not too familiar with different types of beer styles, IPAs are generally very hoppy. So quite bitter usually, immensely full of aroma and flavors off the hops themselves. Session IPAs are basically beers that are under 5%, so IPAs that are under 5%, meaning that you can usually drink more than one in a session. So you can you can drink like 2 or 3 without getting absolutely wasted.
Yeah.
Regular IPAs are usually more in and around 7% or so.
Okay.
So this is very Skál.
Yeah, it's not as hoppy as a regular IPA either. I mean, is that like it doesn't taste that way to me.
No. It's very kind of easy to drink. It's very now the reason why it's so hazy as it is that basically it's there's quite a lot of wheat and oats in it, which gives it a much more protein along with a lot of dry hopping, and the hop oils will actually give you that that haziness into the beer.
Yeah. Okay. I'm wondering if Jóli, they made it because this is like the flavors that he likes, or there's just like this is just it.
Maybe it's because he's a very bitter man. I don't know.
Yeah. But not too bitter. He's
no.
Bitter enough. Yeah. I do like though that it's very fresh. It kind of has like, even though it's a Christmas beer, it kind of reminds me more of like a summer beer, to be honest. Like with the lightness, and then also the finish is really clean. Like I don't have this, in the back of my mouth when you drink an IPA and it's so bitter and you're just kind of like, oh god, it's just kind of sitting back there. I don't have that, which is nice because I'm not like the biggest IPA drinker. I can appreciate them, but as I continue to drink them, that same taste is builds in the back of my. So I'm glad that this is a lot more cleaner.
Yeah.
Like
like these types of IPAs won't leave you with a massive heartburn after the evening. Get your acids going.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But yeah, I'm actually quite happy with this kind of movement that's been happening with the Christmas beers moving away from being too, like I said, monotonous and very,
the same over and over again.
Ambery lagers.
Yeah, I mean, there's a place for them for sure, but it shouldn't be that's the only thing that marks Christmas. I agree with you.
But I mean, that is what a lot of people still kind of relate to Christmas time, because I mean, even in Iceland, I think now for this year, the sales have of course gone through the roof because everyone is just drinking at home. And and the
not judging.
Tuborg, and the Tuborg Christmas beer, I think they have up until this point they've manufactured and sold out more than 1 million liters, which is insane for a market the size of Iceland.
Yeah, and that is a Danish beer, is that right? Tuborg?
Originally, yeah. But they're so big now that what they do is they contract their beers out. So they designate their recipes to certain factories. So Ölgerðin in Iceland, they manufacture all of the Tuborg beers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So the Tuborg beers in Iceland, they're actually made in Iceland under license from Tuborg in Denmark.
Okay. Does it taste any different? Because water and whatever.
Yeah, massively different. Yeah. I think the one in Iceland is quite a lot better than the one in Denmark.
I knew you were going to say that.
but it's also because a lot of the bigger breweries have moved away from mashing in and doing full grain beers. They're doing a lot of the bigger batches in syrups, basically. So it's like a mix and match, basically. So they tend to be. You can taste the alcohol a lot more in those types of beers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what a lot of them do in the U.S. as well. I mean, I think Miller and Budweiser at least, and Coors and all of those kind of stable American lagers. None of them are actually made from mashing in anymore. They're all just syrup beers. And I mean, that's what mass production means as well, is because you're having to make such a massive amount of beer, and it's always supposed to taste the same.
Right.
And you don't want that kind of changes in sugar content in the grain and all of that kind of stuff. Different. So you don't want seasonal changes in your produce. You want your produce.
Yeah,
to be
you want it to be like always the same. Yeah,
exactly
you always know what to expect in essence.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of smaller breweries, craft beers, and also like the experimentation, like the change. I think is what's exciting, because I've never been, when I first tried beer, when it was like a Miller or Budweiser, which people will drink them. I have nothing against people drinking them. That's their business. But it just, for me, I was like, what is this? Like, I didn't get why people like beer until I tried, like, I think it was beer, like a Trappist monk beer or something, And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Now I understand, like, there can be complexities and like different types of really delicious flavors. So
yeah, without a doubt.
Awesome. Okay, so are we moving on?
Yeah,
are you still? Because I my little glass didn't.
No, I need to drive home after this, so so I'll just be doing sips basically.
Okay.
Next one we're going to be doing. This is actually one of my beers. We did 3 different Christmas beers this year. This is one of the ones that we made. It's called Ekkert, Sérstaklega, Jólaleg, which means not a very Christmassy Christmas.
Yeah.
And as you can
see, like almost direct translations, like nothing special Christmassy Christmas or something like that.
Yeah. It's got Santa Claus in a lounge chair on a beach.
That makes sense now, because I was like, who is this random character? Not that it, but now, okay, got it. And I'll have like close-ups of all the beer cans so people can see what this looks like. Okay.
And I went as far away from the traditional standardized Christmas beers as I possibly could. Yeah. So I did a lime IPA. So this is a 5.2% kind of standardized IPA, kind of like an American IPA.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you really smell lime too.
Yeah, and then I just basically added shitloads of lime juice in it.
Okay, so, it's like, woo, yeah, you definitely smell that.
But it's you can smell the lime
hops,
in there.
Like, yeah, you can smell a lot of like the hops, the lime. It is a very like, I like lime flavor, so that's helpful. Yeah. But it is one of those things like as soon as your nose comes a little bit close, it's like, yes, it is in there. So you
and I
labeled
it
well.
That's what a lot of the people in the craft industry do as well, is that we try to use all natural ingredients. So I don't use essences or anything like that. This literally it has I think it's 50 liters of lime juice.
Wow.
In this actual beer, yeah.
Awesome. It's Skål. I keep like trying a little bit before I say Skål. I'm like a terrible Skål. But yeah, it's. I like the citrusness of it.
I did. This is the second batch that went out, and I decreased the lime a little bit the second time around because it became a very overpowering part of the flavor profile. So I thought, let's decrease this a little bit and kind of let the hops rise above.
Yeah.
So
and they do.
It becomes a part of the beer, but not the beer itself.
Right. Exactly. Like for me, the part I talked about regarding the IPA that stays in the back of your throat, that part is there, and then but I taste the lime first, and then it finishes with this like hoppy, bitter flavor in the back, but then I get like, sometimes when I swallow again and I haven't had another sip, I still taste a hint of lime. So it's like, it's almost like,
exactly.
Yeah.
You get that kind of flavor as you would from kind of like the zest more than anything. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what hits you right there at the end, bitterness from the zest and the white parts of the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
So
it almost makes me want to have guacamole. That's what I feel like.
Exactly.
It's go really well with it because
Christmas. The Christmas taco night. This will be. This will definitely be. This will be the thing to drink for the Christmas taco night.
Half naked Santa and sunburned.
Half naked sunburned Santa on a Bahama beach. That'd be.
I mean, it literally says on the bottle, "Drink on the beach."
Yep.
So, instructions given. In Iceland, there are plenty of beaches. I don't know if you necessarily, you won't be in your shorts, maybe not this time of year, but you could still take it to the beach and drink it if you want.
Yeah, you probably, especially now, you'd probably freeze your ass off. But
it's really cold today.
Extremely cold. And the wind chill factor isn't helping either.
No. So at Ægir Brugghús, what do you do? Like, how many ranges of beers do you do? Is it like does it change often or something?
Yeah, I mean, we have the seasonal products that we just make within. I mean, the seasons are split up, and I think it's more been done recently. It's been made more easily accessible, and it's a way for the smaller breweries to get in with a bigger distribution than if you go through just like the regular channels and try to get your beers in all year round. Mm-hmm. Then it's based on like a merit system. So basically, the more you sell, the more you get distributed.
Yeah. Okay.
So as your sales increase, you'll get moved into more stores. But the seasonal beers get moved into a higher distribution bracket, like right off the start. So which is why we have the seasons are Þorri, which is the one in January, from January until mid-February. Then you have Easter. And summer, and then you have the Oktoberfest beers, and then the Christmas beers.
Nice.
So
are you doing a... Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, we have the... I have like usually 2 or 3 beers within each season, and then I have four. And then I have 4 beers in like year-round sales.
Okay. You know, it's funny. I never thought of Torre. Like, I don't go to the Vinbúðin that much, but I didn't think of a Torre as like the season where people were putting out special beers for it. But it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be looking out for that. And for people who are not aware, Torre is month on the Old Norse calendar or something like that. Yeah. And basically it's, you know, nothing else is happening in Iceland during that time. But like
it's basically the month where you we have a saying a þreyja þorran, which means basically to get through the month of Þorri. It stems from the fact that it's the coldest time of year, it's the darkest time of year. There's no access to any, especially in those days, there would have been no access to any fresh food. So people were just eating what they have, anything that was smoked and cured and soured and stuff like that. So people were eating like, you know, livers and kidneys and stomachs and soured testicles and, you know, all kinds of weird shit.
Sheep head. Yeah.
Sheep head and basically anything off the sheep that they hadn't finished throughout the rest of the year. Because at the end of February is usually when the first lambs are being born. Mm-hmm. So the end of the month Þorri is the time when you start getting access to fresh meat again. Which is why it said, you know, let's get through this fucking month. Yeah. let's eat what we have, and we'll get through this month, and then after that we can start getting access to fresh meat again. Yeah.
Which now has become a tradition because in modern times it's not dire in terms of food.
It's definitely not dire.
Yeah. So Iceland now it's become a tradition. Yeah.
Iceland is very much a kind of top tier Western culture now. Mm-hmm. We were shit poor until the Second World War.
Yep, and American influence and a lot of different things. I mean, a lot happened from different countries and NATO and all that. But and bringing of hamburgers and pizzas, and then all of a sudden.
Thanks for that, American soldiers.
Yeah, exactly. But now people they go to Þorrablót, which are like, I'm not saying it correctly in the plural form, but Þorrablót is a celebration or a festival in which you're eating these foods that your ancestors used to have. And of course, it makes sense to have some alcohol with that because there's a whole lot of strange stuff that shows up.
Usually the alcohol that's being drunk with that is brennivín, which is like a cumin schnapps. And that thing tastes like death.
Yeah.
So you can imagine drinking something that tastes like death to take away the flavor of what you're eating.
Yeah, exactly. It's like what you're eating is worse than death. Right? Yeah. So like you have to wash it down with death. And it used to be called Black Death, so appropriaply.
Yeah, when it was rebranded to be sold abroad, they called it Black Death. I'm gonna sell you something named after a plague.
Yeah, and people were like, "I want that." It's Icelandic. So okay, let's move on to the third one.
Yeah,
which I will not be having.
No.
Yeah.
This is Risala sour. So it's a sour beer. And Risala is basically a reference to Risalamand, which is something that it's like a rice porridge. It's like a sweet rice porridge that you eat around Christmas time. I think originally French, but it comes to Iceland from Denmark. And you put a single nut into it, and then the whole family eats it, and the one that gets the nut gets like a special present.
Yeah.
So
I have a Christmas traditions episode coming up where I show this in there. So people are like, if they visually can't think of it what I'm talking about right now, they can keep a lookout for that.
Yeah. So this basically has kind of all the ingredients of of that. So it's got like lactic sugar, vanilla, cherries, because it usually comes with like a cherry sauce. And yeah, sour.
Yeah. I would really like to try this. I'm going to keep drinking yours with the lime.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
But the reason why I'm not trying it is that it has lactose in it. And first and foremost, I'm lactose intolerant. So I do not want stomach troubles. And also I'm vegan. And so I wouldn't, if I hadn't been lactose intolerant, technically that, would be the other reason. But the first and foremost is I don't want to get sick. So
yeah. You don't want to have a stomach ache.
Yeah, it's like I can deal with a hangover, but not a stomach ache.
So you're getting the cherry color in here, and I preferably would have wanted this to be hazy. I would have wanted this to be very, very kind of full and hazy, because that would remind me more of rice pudding. But it's quite clear actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, but basically what this tastes like, it tastes like the sauce that you put on top.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
So
nice.
Then you get that hint of vanilla afterwards, but it's very, very close to just being like the sauce that you put on top.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
It's a nice beer. It's from Smiðjan. And Smiðjan is on the south coast. It's in Vík. It's where all the tourists go to watch the black sand beaches and try to kill themselves.
From the sneaker wave.
Yeah, exactly.
I could guarantee you there's at least one person who watches or listens to this and has experienced going there and thought that they had good judgment about the waves and got too close.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like, and it's unfortunate because that is life, meaning like you just have to be aware of certain things in Iceland. But in this particular case, like there are signs up that was like, don't get too close to the water. And people still do it, and they end up getting wet or maybe even sucked out into the water. And some people
have died there. Yeah.
Yeah. So please be.
One of the things that you need to heed when you come to Iceland is follow signs. Don't say this doesn't apply to me, because that's one of the most stupid things you can do when it comes to Iceland, because nature here is extremely unforgiving.
Yeah.
Extremely. And on that depressing note,
it went sour pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. It literally went, ooh.
But it is really important to say that, though, because I think a lot of people forget when they're on vacation that things can still go really wrong. Like you're having a good time, and it can very easily if you're not paying attention and heeding the warnings, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, one of the worst things is if you, and this is what I think a lot of the car rentals should actually take more seriously, is that people are like renting these small, tiny cars out to people, and they're taking these things and they're driving up into the middle of the highlands.
Oh yeah, river crossings.
Getting stuck there, and all kinds of like stupid things.
Yeah, true.
Roads are marked 4x4 only for a reason.
Yeah, true indeed.
Yeah.
Slipping in a couple of, good traveling tips.
Yeah, exactly. on the time when nobody's traveling.
Yeah, exactly. Keep this for later.
Yeah. Now, one of the reasons why I really wanted to bring this one in, it's called Grýla. Grýla is the mother of the Santa Clauses, and legend has it is that if you're naughty, Grýla will come and collect you in her bag and take you back to her cave and eat you. That's the way they used to keep kids in check in Iceland back in the old days. And they've so this is from Ölverk, which is in Hveragerði. It says at the bottom, this beer is brewed with geothermal energy.
Yeah,
which awesome. Is true, because they have their Hveragerði, which means I don't know, geyser cove or something. hot spring fields.
Yeah,
is so the town itself is almost like built on top of hot springs, and their brewery is literally on top of one of those hot springs. So they have their hot water. The hot water that they use to brew is actually heated up with geothermal energy.
Nice, that's awesome. I was recently in Reykjavík.
Yeah,
and
it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I did like a video, and I'll link to that video if people are curious. But that's the same area, so that it's near the town of Hvergerði, the Reykjavík Valley. So if people are curious, they can kind of get an idea of what you're talking about.
Did you go swimming?
I did.
Yeah.
It was last week.
Oh, wow. Last week.
Yeah, exactly. So when people see this video, it will be, or hear this, on the podcast, it will be later, closer to Christmas.
Okay.
But yeah, they might have already seen that video. But yeah, it was literally like last week I went, and it was snow and ice, and it was great though, getting into the water. After getting out of the water, and like maybe 10 minutes after, because your body's like all warm and it's excited, and like, oh, you don't feel anything. So as you're getting dressed, it slowly seeps in. I'm like, it's cold outside.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was great though. I think it was really refreshing.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. These guys, this is actually the first beer that these guys release. So they just bought a canning machine. So this is the first beer that they release on cans. And they use raisins and pine and orange. So it just says on the can, it just says Christmas beer. They don't really put onto it what exactly it is, but judging by the flavor, it's like an amber ale. I would judging by the color, that is, it's like an amber ale, but it's also amber ale, brown ale, kind of somewhere in between there, with shitloads of Christmas flavors.
Yeah, it's definitely giving me Christmas hardcore right now.
Yeah, you can smell you can smell the oranges. Now I haven't been able to taste the raisins though. I'm not sure.
Okay. I get a little bit of the, like a really little bit of this. I think I said it was canis, like cinnamon.
Cinnamon, yeah.
In there, but it's like kind of just up in your nose a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think the flavorings in there. Flavorings in there aren't an overpowering thing. They're just kind of like part of the essence of the beer.
Yeah.
Actually, quite like it. It's very, it's easy to drink. This beer though does really a lot remind me of. It's an ale, so it's not a lager, but it's very similar to what a typical Christmas beer is.
And
And
yeah, I agree. It's like it is milder though, like in my opinion. Like for instance, the last one we're going to try is way more like in your face for Christmas for me, maybe because it's my favorite. And it's like sweeter. But yeah, I like it though.
Yeah, I think it's nice.
Yeah. It's a good one to like sit and chat and like you don't feel like it's really interfering with anything. Like I'm not having stuff stay in the back of my throat or anything. It's just kind of chilling out, drinking, talking type of beer.
It's a very kind of what you would call a sessionable beer. You just crush a couple of cans of that and
it's true. 5.2.
Really... Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for some people, it varies, of course.
It definitely does. Definitely does.
I used to be the person that would always look for like the highest percentage, like the 12%, and stuff like that. Just because in that one beer, you normally get, it's kind of like a barley wine or whatever.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of flavor, but you also get a lot of alcohol, so you really only need one of them. So it's just like, drink it kind of slow.
That's very much the mentality of the older generation in Iceland. It's like, what's the strongest thing you have? I'm going to get as much for my money as I possibly can.
That's me. I'm really just old on the inside.
Yeah, you're like a 55-year-old Icelandic male.
my people.
Yeah, and the last one is now for me, this isn't the type of beer that I'd actually I personally wouldn't have picked this beer.
Yeah,
but saying as this is your favorite beer, definitely put it forward. This is the only one that well, in Icelandic terms, you wouldn't class as craft because this is done by Ölgerðin.
Okay. Yeah.
And Ölgerðin is two of the kind of factory breweries in Iceland. They're making about 11 million liters a year.
Wow.
But if you put that in U.S. terms, they're very much craft and they're very much a microbrewery.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam Adams creates the roof of what is classed as craft in the U.S.
Okay.
And as Sam Adams increases their yearly output, they raise the roof because they want to keep Sam Adams with
status,
they want to keep Sam Adams in there. They're like the umbrella, and everything underneath that is classed as craft. So I think they're up to 6 million barrels a year now. And for those of you who don't know, a beer barrel is 200 liters. So that's 120 million liters a year.
That's intense.
No, that's more than that. No, sorry. No, that it isn't. It's 120 million liters a year. Yeah. So 11 million liters from the Icelandic brewery is very, very much craft when it comes to U.S. Standards. They also have a smaller microbrewery within their setup, which is called Borg.
Yeah, I've had Borg beers.
Yeah.
I like those.
And Borg is basically the kind of craft beer arm of Ölgerðin. The guys up there are actually doing fantastic beers. Now, when it comes to Christmas beers, you probably won't get much more Christmassy than this in Icelandic terms because Malt is basically just malt extract.
Yeah.
It's a sweet
tasty
malt extract, very very dark, and Malt is an Icelandic thing that we mix with like orange soda pop to create this kind of Christmas drink.
Malt og appelsín.
Malt og appelsín, exactly.
It's not something that I personally like. I just like malt on its own, to be honest.
Okay.
But you know,
Malt is probably the only soda drink in Iceland that's actually fermented. So what they do is they ferment it out. They start the fermentation and then they pasteurize it. So you get that slight fermentation flavor in it. Yeah. And then that whole lot of sweetness, all of the residual sugars get left over. What they do with this one is they do exactly the same. They just create a much thicker wort. Wort is basically the malt, kind of the malty liquid that you get from mashing in beer. So they create it much, much higher, let it ferment out until it comes to about 5%, which is this one, and then they stop it. Yeah. Chill it down, pasteurize it. So there's a whole lot of residual sugars in there. So it has all of the sweetness of the malt, but with that alcohol kick. So
and that's why I like it.
So you mix that with some orange soda pop, and you got a grown-ups Malt og appelsín.
I think we just go with this.
Actually, a funny thing because they used to Jólaleg.
Yeah.
Which is basically slightly alcoholic malt with a hint of kind of some weird sweetness. I'm not exactly sure what they do with that. Yeah. That used to just go to the factory. This was like back in the 40s, 50s, up until the 80s. You'd go to the factory, you get that fermented, but unpasteurized. So you take the jug that you went and got filled. You usually went and got a 5-liter jug of unpasteurized Jólaleg, and you just left the jug. These were like plastic containers, and you just left them inside in the warm living room. As soon as the yeast got up to 20 degrees, it kicked in again. So it would start re-fermenting, and it would ferment out all of the residual sugars. And during the time when alcohol was illegal, this was a way for people to actually kind of make their own beer, because you get unpasteurized Jólaleg to your house, and this would then be fed to the entire family. So if you went to your grandparents' house, like when I was growing up, they'd always have like this big jug of unpasteurized Jólaleg in their living room. And the jug, a plastic jug, which used to be like that, had like turned into a ball because of the pressure inside. So you have these round jugs. It's kind of on the verge of exploding because of all of the fermentation happening inside. So they'd always just like remove some of the gas as it was fermenting, opening it up. So when it came to Christmas time, you'd be able to get your family drunk.
Yeah, you had your own Christmas.
Yeah.
Alcohol drink, basically.
For people in the age of 1 to 99. Everyone drank that shit.
Oh my God. Okay, well, a lot of toddlers are getting wasted.
Yeah, exactly.
That's terrible.
I was thinking, man, what's wrong with the Icelandic people? Now, this is like dark brown, verging on black. It's got that very, very familiar nose to it. I mean, this is just Malt is something that's sold all year round, but during the Christmas time, sales just kind of go through the roof. And this also has licorice in it, which I am not the biggest licorice fan. Like, meaning I will eat it with marzipan and stuff like that, but I don't just like sit there and just throw licorice in my mouth. But with this, I don't know why, but there's something about it, like maybe the way it's been combined, that it's just, for me, is very tasty and satisfying. Like, I don't mind it, I guess. They use apothecary licorice, so basically unsweetened licorice. Yeah, it's really nice. Like, I'm surprised that I would end up liking it like this. You know, but it's kind of amazing how they're able to do this, because this tastes exactly the same as the 0 ABV version of it. There's almost no difference. Yeah. Very easy to drink and very, I don't know. It's still Christmassy to me, I guess, because this was the first Christmas beer I had. But I was like, whoa, I really like this. And it's like, well, maybe because it tastes like this one thing that like my malt that I can easily drink. But also, even though the color is really dark, it's not, really heavy like a Guinness or something. Which people would, associate with this color. But it's lighter. It's not bitter. It's not hoppy. Right. It's just very sweet and it's jolly. Almost, but there's almost nothing in this that kind of, it is a fermented drink, but it's almost not a beer. In a sense. It's a drink that I happen to like. And so I appreciate you putting it on the list. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, it's just, this is like, for me, I feel like Christmas is officially kicked off, even though Advent has already started. But in my mind, whenever I have a Christmas beer, it's like, yes, it is on. So, And you've finally started now, a month late. Better late than never. Yeah, exactly. Better to do it than like on January 5th or something, So like, well, Óli, I'm super happy that we got a chance to do this. I know things have been so busy for you, and I just am glad that also you allowed me to have this one on the list, even though it's not a craft brewery according to Icelandic standards. But for me, anyone else who's wanting to try, if you're more into sweeter drinks, and not like dessert sweet, but just on the sweeter side, then this one is for sure a good one. But the other beers that you talked about, I think, are great. And I'm just happy to bring this tradition to, YouTube and to the podcast. And so I really appreciate you coming on to share your knowledge and a little bit about Icelandic Christmas beers. No problem. Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you.